Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. My name is Stephen D. Kelley. This is Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. As I mentioned a moment ago, it is now 6 p.m. Pacific time. It is 7/13/2023. Was that July 13th? All right. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't really have a title for you. I want to talk a little bit about Russia. I want to talk about the NATO summit. I want to talk about the results of that. I want to talk about what's going on a little bit with our domestic policy. I want to talk about the Sound of Freedom movie and some of the developments that have been going on. And also the developments in our group. If you're in our group, if you're not, you better hurry up. What are you waiting for? Everyone else is discovering us. It's the Occupy the Getty / Stephen D. Kelley group in Telegram. Got to get Telegram. Got to join this. We've had a lot of people joining, and it's interesting where they seem to be coming from, but it's, for the most part, a lot of the sources where the people are coming from seem to be sources that are probably, maybe working against us, and yet at the same time causing people to come. Now, that's typical. That's the Streisand effect, whatever you want to call it. But, there's no such thing as bad publicity. But we're happy to have all these people. But I want to talk about that. I need to talk about the mission and the grand geopolitical stuff, because obviously everything we do has a lot to do with that. There was another thing I wanted to talk about. It was, it'll probably come to me. But before I do, I turned on right before I start getting ready. Well, I'm getting ready to do the show. I turn on the recording from last week, and I start hearing me talking about, it was relatively beginning of the show, and I'm hearing me talking about my Social Security check and how, I didn't get a check and blah, 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 it's late and yada, yada. And I thought I would share some of the recent developments because, in a way, this sort of shows you a little bit of the motivation that I have, that a lot of you probably have also. But it's a good illustration of the stupidity, retardation of the government. I guess retardation, I know a lot of people, don't talk about the mentally handicapped like that. I'm not talking about back in when I was growing up, they used to say things like mongoloid. I think that was acceptable, but there's all kinds of crazy stuff that's not acceptable today that people got away with back then. But either way, I don't really care about the money thing, and the only reason why I even applied for Social Security is because I got to be that age. I turned that age. I figured, well, I might as well start getting back some of that stuff I paid in for all those years way back when. It's supposed to be my money and all that, even though I know it's not even there. But and I thought that'll be nice. It'll give me, it'll lift me out of my poverty a little bit, and who knows, I can maybe pay people back that I owe money to and get the car fixed, stuff like that. Maybe buy some clothes, who knows. Fun stuff I forgot about. Anyway, and I was getting bugged a little bit. Someone was saying, get your check yet? I'm like, because obviously I have to contribute, and I do, but I said, no. I said, better call. So I called up the little office. I said, hey, hello. Where's my SSI? And they go, oh, well, I don't know. You might not get it this month, yada, yada. It's probably not due for another, whatever. And she said, well, besides, you're probably going to need to come in the office and answer a bunch of questions, and we're going to give you a debit card. I'm like, debit card? What are you talking about? I don't want no bank account, something somebody can put a lien on. What the hell, It's like, I don't need that. That costs money. He says, oh, no, it won't cost you money. Yeah. Famous last words. So anyway, like I said, I don't pay much attention to stuff, but the other day, an envelope did show up. Wasn't the same size as the one. It wasn't a check, but it was it did have my name on it, and it was from State of California Franchise Tax Board. See, I hadn't even read this. I could have been the feds for all I know. Maybe that'll come later, but this is State of California. So they got my information, probably because I applied for Medicaid or whatever it is. They offer all this stuff. That's why the country's in debt. Of course, because they offer all this stuff. But I think it's something like if you can't afford to pay for this or that, they'll help you out with some, potential medical issues should they arise, scam. But anyway, so I get this letter from Franchise Tax Board. It's got my address. Account status. No, it's account. What the fuck? Let's see. Notice date. 7/03/23. Okay, that's just came out. Tax years 1998 and 1997. Okay, that's going back a little ways here. Okay, so let me think about this for a second. It's 2023, and the state of California is hitting me up for back taxes from 98 and 97. Let me see, what's it come out to? 98, they wanted 2,289. I don't even know what that's for. I mean, and I assume about this time I was taking a big hit, obviously, because right after that they wanted 300. So that was a lot less than the year. So 98, I suppose my plummet was not complete. Anyway, so again, I don't read this stuff. I just try to get a scan and pick up the number. But there's a big number. I'll tell you. There's a penalty. Okay, let's see. Penalty amount. Let's see. Here's the $2,000, $1,943. Here's another penalty, $224. And then there's interest. Let me see. It's a big number. What was the interest? Oh, 8,600 something. And there's the other. For the other one, it's 1,000. Okay, so for the $300 in taxes, there's a $1,000 over $1,000 interest. Now, bear in mind, Social Security for me was, let's see, $1,120. You can't live on $1,120. Okay, obviously not, especially in Southern California. Payments 00, adjustments 00, taxes blah blah blah. Anyway, the final grand balance here is $14,789.98. Okay, now this is just the state of California. I'm going to assume that somewhere behind that is going to be the the feds, but obviously now. Okay, this is over 20 years, 23, 24, whatever, 25 years ago, when I must have been making a little bit of money, selling lasers and stuff, families falling apart, losing everything because they're destroying me. But for all those years, I've been kind of, off the grid. No accounts, no nothing. I mean, the last time I paid anything to anybody was in 93, and after that, I've pretty much been living in poverty. So this is a little strange, kind of strange. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go to court and say, excuse me, but I live in poverty and I depend on my fixed income to feed my cats, and what you're going to give me, what you're charging me exceeds what I would get in an entire year from SSI. So obviously, it's kind of a joke. See, now. Now, you know me. I'm going to tell them to pound sand. That's a little word. That's a thing they say in I don't know where they say that, Midwest, whatever. Pound sand. Yes, pound sand. That means kick rocks. It's kind of a good-natured way of saying fuck off. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, obviously, no. No, I don't. Okay, let's just put it this way. I don't expect to see any more Social Security, even though that's a federal thing. I mean, I don't know. If they're not going to give it to me, or they expect to put it in an account so that the state or whoever can start extracting their cut. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? It's so. All bitching aside, I can wrap this up real quick. But the bottom line is, we live in a theftocracy. Oh, I never covered Grace. I just noticed that. Grace, be a good girl. Quiet. Yeah. Anyway, people actually, I couldn't listen to the show. The bird was making so much noise. Seriously, people actually said that in YouTube in the comments. The bird was distracting me so much. Or they'd say, he's got a whistle. I couldn't stand it. A little at the end of his. No, don't. Quiet. All right, sorry. Anyway, so now I know all of you have got similar stories, and obviously, the system is designed that way to take everything they can, pound you down to nothing, keep you barely alive, keep you stupid, keep you paying into the system, and just barely getting by. Never have enough time to relax and think for a second about what's really going on. And you're so threatened by this police state going to take away your money and extract everything from your bank account that you need so much with your electronic savings and deductions and credit cards, etc. Yeah. Okay, so again, I guess that makes me the bad guy, because just like, the FBI showing up, we'll talk about those pussies again. I can't believe there's actually a TV show out there called FBI. Yeah. I walked by that, I saw a TV on, I'm like, oh my God, they actually have a TV show about these pedophile enablers. Incredible. Anyway, so the point is, it's like, I guess I'm going to add that to the list, mofos. No, what is that? I'm a tax avoidance person. Okay, no. And if I tell you that you're fools for paying into the system, well, that makes me extra bad, because I'm telling you not to do it. And I'm not saying all that sovereign thing and it's illegal and all that. Everything's illegal. Come on, I'll tell you, this legal stuff, I think kind of one of the big themes that I think everyone really needs to get through their heads is that nothing in our lives is legal. There is no law. It's a farce. There's rules. Rules, obviously, there's probably a big rule out there that says, thine government will not eat thou'st children. But they do. It's like these Satanists. They think we're all stupid. They think they're stupid animals. We'll be feeding on them in the end. Or we'll be kings, princes on earth. And they'll be our slaves. This is, if you want to know how a Satanist thinks, look at how somebody in government thinks. Your basic congressman or bureaucrat or who knows what, deep state cabal person. They look down on us all. They figure that their lives are much more valuable. They've got bunkers. They're protected. They have people with guns watching out over them. And we don't. And they can have us killed, as far as they know, they think. They can take whatever they want. And they can do things that we can't do. It's like insider trading. Come on, insider trading. First of all, if I was in charge, there would be no stock market. There'd be no speculation. All that would be gone, along with usury. But the people that were elected to make the rules and rule over us, those guys, they cheat like hell. It's like we've got a woman here in the Supreme Court. What's her name? Sotomayor. I can't remember her first name. Kind of a large Hispanic-looking woman, I think she is. Apparently, she's got a book, a child's book. I'm pretty sure she didn't do the art, but I think she probably came up with some words and somebody, had them printed with the pages with the artwork or whatever. But anyway, turns out that her staff, the employees that work under her that we pay for, just like we pay for her salary, which is a lot more than I'm getting. And anyway, her staff is running around calling up all the libraries across the country or the cities and whatever it is that runs these libraries, and basically strong-arming them into putting Sotomayor's book on the shelves of these libraries, buying the books so that they can put them on these shelves. I think, wow, she must think this thing is really important, or she's really privileged. She's got this staff that can work on our dime to try to make her an extra buck, that selling these BS little books that we obviously don't need. The world doesn't need. I mean, seriously, a child's book? You're a Supreme Court justice and you're putting out a child's book? What are they going to sell at Target with all the other fun stuff that they have there? I kind of think maybe you could write something that had a little more value, like my book. The one that, explores and exposes all these deep, dark secrets that the enemy is working so hard to keep covered up. I'll tell you, I'm not even talking about it, but I had that wall issue. I'm not even really talking about it. The next door neighbor put up a block wall, real ghetto. Really ghetto. And I'm sorry, but it just reminded me that he's an illegal alien, him and his wife. And things got kind of nasty over this silly wall. Walls are supposed to make good neighbors. Good fences make good neighbors. Anyway, that kind of went out the wall. That kind of went out the window when he basically said he'd finish our side too if we paid for it. Leaving an abortion in my view. Anyway, I kind of, I haven't seen much of those guys during the heat of it all. The word deportation came out of my mouth, and I guess when you're living in fear over something like that, it's quite a shock when somebody says that horrible word. Anyway, they should have had that word in their head when they started this nonsense. I guess that's why they built the wall in the first place, because they don't feel secure. If somebody's not feeling secure, living in fear. Anyway, that issue's behind me, but it's really, really hot out here, so it's difficult. I can't get out and do the things I need to do to address that particular issue right now. But all that stress aside, then there's this other silliness. I guess what I'm trying to say is that as much as I tell you guys that this is not a business and all that, and I don't want to be like these other grifters that are hitting you up and all that, I just want to say that I'm not expecting any more checks, so I'm going to be that much more dependent on you guys. I'm not going to start really pushing it, but it's just unfortunate. I was actually thinking I was going to be able to, have a little more life. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let me see. 18 minutes in. Yeah. Okay. I got to talk about the Russia thing. And when I say Russia thing, it's like East versus West. God, we're on the losing side, people. It's so bad. I mean, I'm going to kind of repeat a few things that I've said in the past because it's kind of where we are. But, when I was growing up, during the Vietnam War and all that sort of thing, they had the Iron Curtain, the Soviet Union. And, of course, the Soviet Union was a, whatever you want to call it, Bolshevist, communist, Marxist problem. And we used to think that, wow, those poor people, they don't have any access to truth. They don't have any access to accurate information. All they've got is this propaganda. Wow, have things changed? And of course, with our political party BS, people like to remind us like, oh, yeah, it was Obama that made it legal for the media in America to lie to American people, to actually start putting out propaganda. I mean, that's kind of where it started. Funny how he's the same guy that started this war, but it's been going on forever. It's not a political thing. I'm really discouraged that they're actually going to try to stick us with Trump, especially when Biden's looking so incredibly brain dead all the time. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this NATO summit in Vilnius. First of all, I was telling you that we had to really watch out for a false flag attack on the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. prior to this event, this NATO event, because they were going to need something. So Zelensky basically had to bring something with him. He had to have a significant advance in the offensive. He had to have some sort of false flag. He needed something. Anyway, he didn't have anything. He showed up there in his green khakis, and his wife was greeted. They greeted his wife, but he was unhappy because they basically said, "No, you're not getting in. Not now. Maybe later. Maybe after you're done." They didn't give him hardly anything. I mean, they gave him some more money. They promised some more weapons, but for the most part, they just said, you're kind of screwed. They said, what Biden said? He said, "You're stuck with us." Now, I got to tell you, this isn't completely unrelated, but if you've been following any of the White House briefings or the various different talking heads, the CIA analysts, such and such, State Department, the various military types coming out and talking about this conflict, they always make these ridiculous Freudian slips. They always say Russia will prevail. Ukraine is being defeated. Russia will win. And they go, wait a minute. There was a press conference, and I'm not sure if this was a CIA spokesman or State Department or what he was. He wasn't in uniform, so I know he wasn't Pentagon, but he kept saying Russia was going to win. And then the press would go, excuse me, did you mean to say Ukraine? And they go, oh, right, excuse me, I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. Russia is going to win. And they go, no, I'm sorry, you just said Russia again. He goes, oh, I did? Wow, you've had to correct me twice. I mean, seriously, people, it's like the reality is it's really hard for humans to mentally block out reality sometimes. And the reality, Ukraine is toast. The United States, we've destroyed Ukraine, and in the same time, we've destroyed the European Union. We're almost done destroying NATO, and we're going to destroy the entire West, including the United States. It's really bad. Now, one of the yardsticks, of course, that we use for measuring strength on the battlefield, of course, is these howitzers, these artillery shells. And, I suppose here in the USA, we've been trained to think of F-16s and M1 tanks and high-tech vehicles and such, mostly air power. We just don't focus on the lowly 155 millimeter howitzer. You think, oh, yeah, those cannon things. Yeah, they're noisy. Boy, I wouldn't want that job. Well, a country needs to have ammunition for these cannons. I mean, it's just like guns. You need guns. You need to have bullets for the guns. You need to have bullets or shells for these cannons. Now, as I said, yardstick-wise, Russia has been firing anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000 shells, howitzer shells, high explosive, 150, 155 millimeter shells every day. Okay, let's say 40,000, up to 40,000 every day. And this has been going on for well over 100 days, several hundred days, however long. Now, the Ukraine has always been less. At the very peak, they think they fired maybe 10,000 shells. And this is compared to Russia's firing 20,000 and 40,000 shells. So now that's changed. Right now, Ukraine still is firing roughly 5,000 to 3,000 shells. The Russians have gone from an average of between 20 and 40,000 to a consistent 40,000 shells a day against roughly 3,000. Now, the USA, of course, we've got this retarded old guy, President Biden. He essentially told the world we don't have any more shells. We don't have any more howitzer shells. Now I've tried to tell, here's the thing. If you ask me a question like that, let's say I was on Press TV or Russia Today, and they asked me a question like that, I'd say, well, we have underground bunkers, and nobody knows what's in those underground bunkers, do they? Well, when you've got a country being run by skinflint merchant types, mafioso that are basically pumping and dumping and bleeding us dry, they're not spending money on artillery shells. They're certainly not spending money on anything. What they are spending money on is designed to put money in their pocket, just like all the money that's been going into Ukraine. It's all intended to put the money in the pockets of EU, NATO officials, military officials, Pentagon, all the various different, Bidens, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about Hunter. Hell, come on, Hunter's just one person. There's a lot of people that have been taking from those billions and billions that we've been sending. I mean, you understand we've sent well over 100 billion to Ukraine, well over. And you have to assume, I don't know what, 10%, 20%, 12%, 50%. A large portion of that is just outright stolen. So keeping the war going is keeping the pockets lined, keeping the money flowing into these accounts. But like I said, we don't have any more shells. So Biden comes out and he says, well, we don't have any more 155 millimeter howitzer shells to give you, but what we will do is give you 155 millimeter cluster munitions. Now, a cluster munition looks a lot like a conventional 155 millimeter shell, except that it has little holes on the side where bomblets are dispersed from. Now, typically, a cluster munition is dropped from a plane like a bomb, so it's just a big tubular-looking thing, and it spits out all these little bombs, which will cover a big area, but not as effectively as a high explosive of a hit as a single charge. But I suppose you could say in a trench system where these guys are hiding in little, trenches and stuff, that these little bomblets might, be able to get in trenches. But, the guys that are mostly hiding in these trenches are the Ukrainians. Now, Russia says, we have cluster munitions too. But, first off is the world has already banned cluster munitions. But of course, the United States, we say, well, that's not a problem for us because we never signed that treaty, that agreement. We reserve the right to use them. Russia probably did sign the treaty and agreed not to use them. And they said, oh, you don't have any more shells, you're going to go switch to cluster. I see. Well, technically those are illegal, but I guess if you want to change the rules, fine, because we have all kinds of cluster munitions. In fact, we have way more than you, just like they have more howitzer shells of the conventional variety. They also have more of these other things too. So, it's kind of like Obama said about Russia's ability to escalate. He said something like, they're going to win the war of escalation. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. You keep throwing different systems in there. They're going to counter it and up the ante with something else. I'll see you two and raise you one. Anyway, yeah, it's going to get ugly in that route. But it just doesn't matter because you see, the thing is that Ukraine would die and go away tomorrow if we stopped giving them money. It's getting so bad, they don't have any more men. They've thrown their troops in there. I'm sure they're keeping some of their elite guys to defend Ukraine. But, if you pay attention to what's being put out by the Ministry of Defense, if you look at the film put out by the Ministry of Defense, there's quite a few, let's say, shall we say, videos of prisoners. Now, I know you're not really supposed to do this, but what's going on is these guys are giving up. They get trained for about 3 months. They go out on the front, and within about a week, they're either dead or they've surrendered. Now, what's happening is a lot of these guys, they've got a common denominator that's a little disturbing, and that is they're all old men. Okay, now, it used to be they'd be grabbing guys in their 40s. They're grabbing guys in their 50s and older, and they don't care. I saw an interview with one guy. He said he was blind in one eye, and he had about 30% vision in the other eye. Now, he can't shoot a rifle. Obviously, he can't shoot a rifle. He can't shoot a rifle. I mean, I struggle now with my vision to try to shoot, and it's not. I know you can't do it. Anyway, and these guys are in poor shape, and they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're giving them these heavy packs and whatnot, and they're putting them out there, and they're saying, run, 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 run. These guys can't do it. They've got high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. They're all good. They're cannon fodder. This is cannon fodder. They put these guys out in the trenches because they're bodies. There's bodies out in the trenches. You know, I'll tell you, with these drones flying around, watching everything, you see these Ukrainians. You see them scrambling around. You see them scrambling out of their armored vehicles and trying to find cover in these destroyed buildings and behind bushes and stuff. And the artillery fire is just right on. And they're screwed. There's nothing they can do. And the best thing they can do is they've got to give up. Of course, they're trained. They're told that the Russians don't take prisoners and they'll be beaten, et cetera, tortured, yada, yada, yada. Needless to say, no, that's not what's happening. When they are surrendering, they're actually being asked to surrender, and they say, yes, we want to surrender, and they're taken, and they are fed, and they are reclothed, and if they're wounded, their wounds are dealt with, et cetera, and they're treated humanely, they're not beat, et cetera, et cetera. So the point is that the men that are flooding into, and I don't say flooding, but they're being squeezed out of the population into this service. They're old men now. The young, able bodies are gone. They're not healthy. They're either going to die really quick or they're going to surrender. And pretty much that's what's happening, because these squads, they'll have 70% of them will get wiped out, and the rest of it will surrender. That's kind of what's going on now, and this great offensive that Ukraine was supposed to be doing, it's not happening. The Russians, they're moving forward. They're gaining 500 yards, whatever, so much ground every day. They've been doing it. The Ukrainians, they tried to retake Bakhmut, or Atyamos, depending on who you are, but the only reason they were trying to take Bakhmut is because as that territory had just fallen recently, the Russians weren't able to get in there and build all sorts of trenches and defenses and, necessary fortifications to keep them from coming in and taking back the territory. But they can't even do that. Instead, they're losing huge amounts of people. There's all kinds of videos of armored columns being decimated, coming in. Usually there'll be a tank in front, and then behind it will be either a Stryker or a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, whatever you want to call it, IFV. Anyway, they're just destroyed. They're either hit with artillery or they run into minefields. I'll tell you, I saw a little film that the Russians put out, and it showed all the equipment that they were packing up and storing away from the Wagner Group. Now, the Wagner Group, of course, since they stopped fighting in Bakhmut and there was that little mutiny nonsense that happened, all of their equipment and their manpower is being assimilated into the Russian army, per se, the Ministry of Defense. But their equipment is all being brought back into the system and refurbished, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll tell you, piles and piles of howitzers and guns and armored vehicles. And I'll tell you, the mines, stacks and stacks and stacks of mines, heavy mines, the sort of thing that they put out there to take out these tanks. You can see by the quantity that they had left over that they must have put a hell of a lot of mines out there, and there must be a really difficult... I mean, when you see these vehicles scrambling... Grace, stop it. When you see these vehicles scrambling, trying to get through these minefields, it's pathetic. The first one blows up, they start taking off in different directions, boom, 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 one after the other. I see these guys crawling out and trying to hide behind one of the vehicles. What are you going to do? You're in an armored vehicle, and you want to get out and hide behind some bushes because you think you're safer than being in the armored vehicle, which is true. So it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And, of course, our side does not care. And I'll tell you, the disregard for human life, the cynicism, the morbid fascination with death that it seems that these neocons are so hooked on. I mean, if that isn't a clue that they're Satanists, I don't know what is, but you have to remember that if they are so ready to destroy the lives of so many people who they claim to be protecting and supporting, you know they don't care about us. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They sure as hell don't care about those people. And that kind of treatment, it's going to come for us too. Now, the European Union, like this bitch von der Leyen, von der Crazy, she's up there and she's like, well, you're protecting us. You're protecting Europe. Are you fucking kidding me? You're protecting Europe. From what? Russian money? Russian gas? They weren't doing anything. We started this. Anyway. Putin's war of aggression. Are you fucking kidding me? Anyway, I don't want to get into the Nazi stuff, but NATO is Nazi. And now, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it wants to become NATO Pacific. Okay, so the North Atlantic Treaty Organization wants to bring in Japan, ostensibly to call the area of the South China Sea, which of course is where they're getting into it with China, part of the domain of NATO. Now, if this doesn't show you just how badly these Nazi bastards have gotten out of hand, the Pacific with Japan. I have nothing against Japan, but I mean, think about it for a second. When Germany joined NATO, people thought that was really weird. But then again, they said, well, it wasn't Germany. It was only West Germany, not East Germany. And now they're saying, well, maybe that's what we'll do in Ukraine. Maybe we'll just annex Western Ukraine. You realize that's the Nazi part. I'll tell you, how they've been yanking guys off the street and sending them to the military? They're starting to do that in the West now. Remember, that should show you something. The people in the West, the Nazis in the west of Ukraine, they didn't give a damn about the people the east of them, especially the ones in Donbass. But the people in the east, Kiev, etc., Kherson, Zaporozhye, all those places, they didn't give a damn. In fact, for cannon fodder, they're going to go to those places to yank people off the street. They're going to leave the fellow Nazis in the West alone. But now the fellow Nazis are getting pressed into service too. So things are getting pretty bad. I didn't want to... you know what? I really don't want to take a break right now, but it's too hot. There's no reason to, I guess. I will go back to the group thing, though, because I do want to thank all you guys again for all your hard work and the memes, etc. They're getting really strong, and Of course, I don't have the feel for it because I'm not out there in social media like you are. Those of you that are still on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, etc., you can actually see the response. But some of you, I know, you do tell me, you do give me your feedback. I know that we're well, like Lara over there in Beirut says, we're really big in Beirut. And I had a guy join the group today. He says, "Hi, from India, big fan of Steven," or something like that. So I know we're out there. We're getting out there. The world is on our side. The same world that would cheer on Russia for giving us a black eye, destroying our economy. Well, we did that. They're saying attaboy to those guys, but they do that to us too. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a Putin lover or that I'm anti-USA. Oh, hell no. Of course, I'm pro-USA. I'm pro-America, I buy American products. But our fight, the Occupy the Getty mission, is for the whole world. And if anything, if we can end this nonsense going on here with the Getty mission, stop the Satanism, we can stop the war, we can stop the bloodshed, we can access the resources, we can access the technology. And I'm sure when the time comes, we'll be able to deal with these forces, such as the East, the collective East, if you will. And we'll be able to come to an agreement, and we'll be able to solve the world's problems, but at the same time avoid the destruction of our country, the unnecessary destruction of our country and the loss of lives and property. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to preserve the system and we're going to keep the wealthy elite's evil machine going. That's going to end. And if that means that life will become a little more modest, a little more austere, well, I'm not Pol Pot. I'm not Karl Marx. Pol Pot, he's that guy in Cambodia that basically took all the people in the city and pushed them out in the land and told them to grow rice and, killed 30 million people. Something like that. Cambodians. Was it 10 million or 30 million? I don't remember. But either way, he's one of those big killers. Most of these killers have been Marxists. I'm not Marxist. I'd like to see us become more agrarian, of course. But at the same time, we have some pretty sophisticated futuristic technology to access. And I wouldn't say there's anything agrarian about that. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Once again, I just got to remind you guys, because, as more and more people join the group, I still see the fear thing. I still see people say, well, this happened, that happened. I was in this situation. And I just have to remind you guys, no fear. All right? You die when you're supposed to die. Nobody's going to take your life, steal it from you. You are the master of your own destiny, and you really need to control that. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, I think. But I am going to remind you guys that, like I said at the beginning of the show, well, first of all, thank you to all you people that do donate on a regular basis. But I'm beside myself now about this nonsense, and I hopefully you guys will come forward as we gain more people in the group. There'll be a couple more people that'll be in a financial position to help us out. Help me out. Help me deal with the poverty a bit. Help me feed the cats and stuff, okay? All right. Anyway, with that, I'm sorry for that part. Let's see. Again, it's July 13th, 2023. It's quite warm. it's like 91 degrees Fahrenheit where I'm sitting right now, and I'm in an air-conditioned room. But yeah, the computers don't like it when it gets much warmer than that. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys with that, and I'm gonna remind you also that you got to join the Telegram group if you haven't done it yet. And welcome to all the new people. If this is the first time you listen to the show, I'm just gonna remind you guys real quick. There's at least a good 1,000 hours of video of me talking about various different things. So there's no shortage of information that I've already recorded and provided for you going back the last, whatever it is, 12 years. I really want you guys to spend more time on that stuff and less time trying to bring content in from the outside, especially stuff that's fear-based. All right? I really would appreciate that. And if you haven't gotten the book and you haven't read it, of course, it's free, and you just need to email me at law17gun@aol.com, LAW17GUN@aol.com. Also, if you want to be a Jedi, that's write to me. And if you need healing, write to me. And if you are inclined to help us out financially, please, my PayPal is StephenKelley714@yahoo.com. And if you are able to donate, you do have to find the box to check where it says friend or family, because otherwise they'll expect me to invoice you and provide a product, and I'll never get the money. I got to give it back. Okay. As you know, taxes, IRS, whatever, they're coming after me now. All right. So again, I do appreciate anybody that does help out, but, that's just the way it is. All right, now, this show will be on loop on the channel, law17gun@aol.com. If you want to tune in to the channel, if you're listening to it live, God bless you. If you're listening to it on one of these formats, Brighton or one of the others, then I hope you will have joined the group, and I hope you will learn to tune in one of these days when we're doing our live show. Okay? I would appreciate it. And also, email me. Give me some feedback once in a while. I appreciate that, too. Okay? All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week. And again, my name is Stephen D. Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. We are TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It's about 6:49, about 50 minutes in, and it's still July 13th, 2013. I'll see you guys next week, God willing. Okay? So, with that, good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.